My God, it's full of stars.
Back, everybody, to another VHS Vault. I am one of your hosts, VHS Jace, but of course, next to me is the great Jason Roy Gaston, sir. This was your choice this week.
It was because I wanted a far off futuristic world set in the year 14 years ago. I chose the unfairly maligned sequel to 2001 A Space Odyssey, 2010, the year we make contact, which is never referred that way in the movie at all. It's just 2010.
No, it's just, it's really not even the year. I mean, the year's part of it. But I also like to think of this film 2010, the year they didn't actually release a Marvel film.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of weird.
I don't know if that coincided at all. Look, I just get straight into it. I saw this movie young, when it came out 84, it went way over my head. Way over my head. I was kind of disinterested. It wasn't really my thing. I'm looking for pew pew at that point. Not really, what is really good sci-fi. And I discovered that last night when I watched it. But my memories of it weren't great, weren't anything. It was just a smaller film to a bigger film. You know what I mean? That's how I kind of had my first contact with the movie.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I'm leaving now.
The year you made contact. I saw this movie before I saw 2001 because I saw this movie.
That's crazy.
It was awesome. I thought it was really cool. I missed most of the beginning the first time I saw it, but I saw the exciting escape sequence at the end, and I just thought, this is cool. I can't wait to see it was based on. And of course, dumb 11-year-old me is sitting there in front of the TV watching 2001 a couple of months later thinking, why are there monkeys? I have to appreciate 2001 in the years hence, and it has become one of my favorite movies of all time. But that being said, I think 2010 is quite an intriguing sequel, even though it is a completely different movie, both tonally and in almost every other way.
For me, it was like watching it as like 2001. Okay, so we have 2001, and here's the movie to explain everything. 2010, because that's what it is. I mean, 2001 is very mystical, very kind of a poem in many ways, and beautifully spectacular, and all that. I was lucky enough to see that. I wasn't old enough, but they re-released it all the time, and I got to see it in the late 70s at the cinema. But yeah, 2010, I thought was good because it did explain some things to me. Things made more sense at the end of this film than they ever had before off the back of 2001. And I loved the direction they go. I just love the fact they actually get to deal with the nitty gritty of what had happened.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's an adaptation of a book written by Arthur C. Clarke, the author of 2001, which if you've ever read the book 2001, the book does explain what happens. It explains everything.
Never read the book.
2010 is a completely different ball of wax with a completely different mystery. So it's like two different mysteries, and then you have the other two books, which don't even bother. I'm sorry, I love you, Arthur Clarke, but no.
I've always found his stuff hard to read, to be honest with you. I wasn't a big fan of Arthur C. Clarke stuff, but I obviously a big fan of Kubrick, so that's why I love 2001.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you caught this, but there's Kubrick and there's Arthur C. Clarke.
I know, it's pretty great. I didn't catch that, but that's awesome.
And of course, awesome. I don't know if you caught this earlier in the movie, but during the conversation in front of the White House, if you take a look at the man on the left, C. Clarke.
Oh, great! Oh, awesome! That's fantastic. That's good. I'll go with it. No, look. At the end of the day, this is obviously written and directed by Peter Hyams, who really had a vision for this. Kind of wanted to get this made. Actually, sought the permission as such from Kubrick, his blessing. Which he kind of pseudo got.
He kind of got that, but he also got permission from Arthur C. Clarke. As he said, he asked Clarke, "Do I have your blessing to make 2010?" And Arthur C. Clarke said the immortal words, "Yeah, sure."
You know, when he was writing it, and I know you know this, so but he was writing to Arthur C. Clarke, Peter Hyams. They were going back and forward on the script as he was writing it. Do you know how they did that?
I do, but I will let you go ahead and tell everybody.
I just read it recently, like this
Yeah.
morning. So cool. It was over the earliest form of email.
Yes, it was unheard of for anybody outside of academic circles to communicate via the ARPANET, as they called it back then. And yeah, this was one of the first times that writers had ever collaborated over email. So yes, the future.
And apparently the file exists. They named that whole communication stream the Odyssey file, which you can download off the internet.
You can, yes. So if you're curious about what you see here, thinking, wow, they made a sequel to 2001, what? Yeah, check it out, because it's got some very interesting insights in it. One of my favorite factoids about this movie is that we know that the Discovery is just an iconic spaceship. And of course, for the sequel, they needed to have the Discovery in it. The problem is Stanley Kubrick was well aware of movie studios reusing models. And he didn't want to see the Discovery or the pods or anything show up in another movie, especially like a low-budget Corman movie. Sorry, sir, but that's true. He didn't want to see the Discovery in Battle Beyond the Stars going pew, pew, pew. He didn't want to see that. So he had all of the sets and all the models freaking destroyed, as well as the blueprints, so nobody could recreate them. Years later,
like that.
Years later, whenever it's time to do 2010, Peter Hames is like, "Oh no, there's no models, there's no blueprints. What do we do?" Well, they got the film of 2010 and just went through it frame by frame and drew everything and recreated everything based on sight alone. The only set that is not a close approximation of the original 2001: A Space Odyssey is the corridors in the Discovery, because they made them a little bit wider so that they could fit more people in them.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that, but that's very cool. That is very cool. What is very cool in this is the way that this movie, from a storytelling perspective, gets straight into it.
It does. I mean,
they don't muck around. It starts and it goes.
We're doing our Avatar podcast and our Gargoyles podcast as well. It's almost like previously on 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it just tells you everything.
Yep.
It's like, this is what happened in the first movie. Okay, you uncultured yutzes. Okay, now you can watch the sequel. It's more mainstream. You'll love it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably an attempt to make it more mainstream, and it certainly feels like that. But I really appreciate the different direction, the tonal change in it. Because 2001, you can't copy it, right? You can't try to match it. It's impossible. So really, he's left with no other choice but to go, okay, well, I've got to do it tonally different. And I think the way to do it is to have it as a really at the backbone of it is the Cold War story.
Yes.
Because it's the looming threat for the entire film.
Yeah, which unfortunately kind of dates the movie a little bit because, Anyway, but I like to think of this as an alternate universe.
Yes,
it's an alternate
2001.
Universe.
I mean, that happened 23 years ago.
Yeah, because sure, the Soviet Union isn't around whenever 2010 got here, but you know what else wasn't here? Monoliths, the Discovery, the Leonov, Dr. Floyd, Hal. Yeah, it's an alternate universe, guys. It's science fiction, not science faction. Shut up.
And you know what? I reckon the audience probably had a little bit of a problem back then with it, but today, because we're used to that in storytelling. There's been shows done with alternate timelines. We can accept them all. And straight away, I had no problem accepting that fact at all.
Oh, me neither.
I was like, oh, cool. Like, because they can go anywhere. This is an alternate history. You can go anywhere with this. You're not bound by the physics of reality as such. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Plus, if we had never gone this direction with the story, we would have never gotten Russian Helen Mirren.
Oh, yes, I know. Which is a big shock to see her, and a reminder how damn a good actress she is.
She is. I didn't even recognize that was Helen Mirren for many years. And
Mm,
then happened to see her name in the credits and I thought, who was she in this movie? And then it was like, oh my gosh,
yeah, such a
she's
layered,
she's
subtle
the Cosmo.
performance. She's really, really
Absolutely.
good.
There
You know
is
who
so
also
much.
I love in this is
Who
good
is it?
old Roy, man. Roy Schneider's kicking it. He's
Oh
doing well.
yes. Yes.
He's so good playing the everyman, isn't he?
He really is. And I love the fact that his motivation is guilt. I love that. I love that they took that character, this minor character from the book and from the movie, and said, "Okay, yeah, you sent all these people out there and they never came back. You're feeling guilty and you have to make things right, or you have to find out why." There are
Later in
so
the
many
movie,
great.
but when he gets
Yeah.
called out on it, I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There
it's
are
juicy.
so many great characters in this film.
Yeah.
Tell me, nobody else can do a panic attack like John Lithgow. This
Agreed.
is like
Nobody.
this is like two movies in the space of 2 years where he
Yeah.
just gives an amazing performance while having a panic attack. And not only that, the Russians, all of the Russian characters in this. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures of all of them because it was hard
Yeah.
to find screen caps for this movie that
Yeah.
involved the actors. But the Russian characters are great because they could have easily been the stereotypical "we do not talk to pig dog Americans,"
Yeah.
but no, they care about each other. They have this
Yeah.
great sense of camaraderie, and that eventually transcends to their American guests as well. As a matter of fact, I would say that the Russians are actually painted into a better light than the Americans are in many cases, and that was
Yeah, I would
something
agree
that
with
was
that.
interesting to see.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that actually, because they, in a way, the Americans come off bullish and
They really
demanding,
do.
and really from the political stand, from that B story that's happening, they're the aggressor here. They're the ones who are amping up the nuclear threat.
Yes.
If you actually, and that's what I noticed, it's the Americans who are being the aggressor here, or are moving things forward. So it's really, and it puts Roy Schneider and the guys in a really interesting situation because they're on that ship, of course. That's happening, and they're getting the news. They're knowing what's going on. So you go, yeah, about my government at all. We're not we're scientists, kind of thing. So anyway,
I did like the mutiny. I thought the mutiny was so much fun. Just seeing these people say, we're a trillion miles from home. What does it matter what we do up here? It's not going
yeah,
to affect anything back there. This is just our government's in a pissing
yeah.
contest. Let's just not do this.
Well, they have
Ah,
to make key choices in that mutiny, don't they? Because it's
they did,
survival at
yes.
some point. They have to
Yes.
defy orders.
And what a clever way to use physics. What a clever and exciting use of physics.
Yeah.
I really love it. I also want to point out that this movie has some of the best model work I've ever seen. These shots of the Discovery and the Leonov in space
Yes, that was a
are
great shot.
absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
There's a little bit
that's
of bad compositing every now and again, but for the most part, you could take this photo right here. I want this on my wall. It's beautiful.
yeah, it's beautiful. You're talking about some bad compositing. I mean, they were kind of painted into corner. Black is really hard to composite, and so you got this
Yes,
monolith
it
in
is.
space. It's black.
In black space, yes.
Yeah, but it's absolutely wonderful. I feel like when I watch this film, I feel like I watched it for the first time. Man, I'm in love with the ending. I'm in love with the beautiful nature of the end of this film. I know I'm
Yes.
jumping ahead, but it's such a beautiful dessert on a scrumptious meal. I'm putting out. I'm really enjoyed the hell out of this movie
It's
on
great.
levels that
love this
it would have
movie.
been impossible for me to enjoy back as a child. It's just, life experience and being able to bring that and rewatching this. Yeah, man, I appreciated the hell out of this. I think Peter Hyams should have been nominated for something based on this because it's a great sequel. It's a great
It
sequel
really is.
to iconic film, and that is hard to do.
The biggest crime that 2010 commits is being a sequel to an iconic movie. because if this had been a regular sequel, everybody would be singing its praises. But because 2001 is a masterpiece, and it is a masterpiece, it's a masterpiece movie. It's beautiful. It is haunting. It's wonderful. Because that movie came first, this movie is always going to be seen as a footnote. And I don't think it should. I think that in its own right, it's a good sequel. And in its own right, it's a terrific movie on its own, even if you haven't seen 2001.
I think one of the problems would have been, just one of the problems would have been when they released this, essentially, in the early 80s, it was unusual to have sequels. Studios didn't look fondly upon sequels back then. Unless you were Rocky, there weren't a lot of sequels around that time, or Empire Strikes Back. You know, they were very probably a little bit, and I think the audience maybe didn't understand what this film was going to be.
Well, I mean, what about this movie could have confused you? The baby?
Yeah.
The baby.
No, but I think if you really sold it as being a Cold War story, it's really a Cold War story, and it's haunting in its own way, but not the same way. It feels like we're going to get rid of the pacing issues in 2001 from Peter's perspective. I don't see him as pacing issues. It's a poem. It's a painting. It has to be that slow. But he's purposely gone, no, we're going to pick it up and we're going to give you a lot of plot, because there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this film, which I think is great too. I mean, I couldn't sit here right now and tell you beat for beat how this story progresses, because I feel like there's a lot going on in here.
It jumped around quite a lot. And, you were talking about how this movie answered questions. To me, it actually made things more magical, and it made things more unexplained. And I will tell you some of my favorite examples. It's two separate scenes, both of them involving Dave Bowman, or what was once Dave Bowman. The first one is whenever he comes and talks to his wife on the TV.
I like that.
And he's just there to tell him goodbye. And he says one of the coolest lines, I think, whenever she says, "Don't go," and he says, "I'm already there." And he doesn't say it to be joking. He doesn't say it to be sinister. He just says it like, "I'm already there. This is something that I can't explain." And the second scene is whenever he visits his mother, who's dying. And there is just something so magical about seeing that hairbrush brushing her hair, and she's smiling because she knows it's her son. And then when the nurse comes in and she's holding that hairbrush and she's passed away, wow, that's beautiful.
It's quite emotional.
Is a beautiful scene. It was. But just seeing Dave Bowman say goodbye to everybody was just terrific.
Yeah. Now, when I meant explain things in this film, it was very much like what the plan was, how they got there. Like, there's a lot more technical explanation goes on in this, rather than 2001, which I kind of really like. I also felt it fleshed out Hal a bit more. It turned Hal from being a villain to really not being a villain at all.
He was a victim.
And I really love that turn.
Hal was a victim. And I loved 100%. I loved how they just said Hal was told to lie and he wasn't programmed for it and he didn't know what to do, so he broke.
Yeah.
That's sad. That is so sad.
That's terrible, And the fact that, and that comes off the same scene where they call Roy out big time. Whose fault was it? It was your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
I love that
great.
scene, because I'm like, damn it, take some accountability here.
It also leads to some great tension in the movie as well, because up until the last minute, you really don't know what's going on with Hal. You don't know if he's evil. You don't know if he's good. You don't know if he's malfunctioning. And he's just he's just an entity who's just trying to do a job. Right. And the whole question about, will I dream? Maybe he's a little alive too. Who knows?
You know what I love about Hal, though? It's the end, isn't it? It's all these worlds are yours except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Use them together. Use them in peace.
Yes.
That's not a statement by a villain. Statement by a sentient being.
Yeah.
That's because it's the way it's said. It's not said in robotic terms, which I absolutely love. But mind blow, I'm just going to pull out there the end of it. Mind blower, boom, we
Yep.
make another universe, basically, another star with
Yep.
yeah.
We make
And I'm like,
Lucifer is what they call the star. They
yeah.
call it Lucifer. Spoiler alert: 2061, the book, they land on Europa, which they were told not to do. They do it.
Okay,
They
setting
do
up
it.
a whole heap of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Because
No,
the Jovian moons in 2061 are covered in diamonds. Because the core of Jupiter exploded, and the core has that compressed carbon, and so it rained diamonds everywhere. So everybody's going around looking for diamonds. And 3001, spoiler alert, Dave Bowman was a computer program. It's not a good book. It's not a good book. Ignore it. Ignore 2061 too. It's not a good book either. 2001, 2010, read those books and then stop.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ignore this film because this film,
No,
to me, I really love. I really love that idea. You know what? It was something I hadn't seen before in a movie. It struck me as like, oh, I've never seen a universe like that kind of ending to a film. In the sense you've created a new star inside our solar system. Never seen it repeated on any TV show. Even Star Trek, I didn't even think did that. So,
well, they don't want to. They've got Jupiter Station up there. They don't want to fry Jupiter Station. We don't want Doc Zimmerman to die.
It was wild. It was wild. And, you know, the tension that you were talking about too, it's multi-layered tension because it's like the tension of whether the house full of shit or not. It's the tension of the characters where they're going to turn on each other. Are they going to believe Roy Schneider? They've got to get the hell out of there now. And then the tension of seeing Jupiter collide with the thing and seeing that is a full-on scene as you're trying to get away from it. It is really great. Really good.
The dark spot on Jupiter getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I think it's not only mysterious, but to me it's frightening because you just have this big amorphous black blob that's just growing and growing and growing, and you just there's just something immediately once you see it that you know it's something you got to get away from. And I love the way it was introduced in dialogue. It was, how dare you all? How dare you commit mutiny? How dare you cut off communications? When you get back, we're going to court-martial you. Incidentally, can you check out this black spot on Jupiter?
Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it? But I don't think they were getting court-martialed at the end of this one.
Who knows? American justice can be kind of petty sometimes, and I'm pretty sure Russian justice is right up there with it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting too, because right at the end of the movie, don't they both back down?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It is a second sun in the sky. I don't know why, but I don't feel like blowing anyone up today.
No.
Meanwhile, the Americans are like, woohoo! Bang, 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 bang.
I like
second star in the sky. Let's shoot at it. Bang, 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 bang.
I like the little mini montage at the end where we get all the shots of around different lands with the second sun there. I like the second sun's not yellow; it's kind of a blue. And it's like the little touches. I just think they were very meticulous when they were putting this film together, because I know scientists might look at this and go, "This movie's so bullshit."
Oh yeah, it would have to be a red dwarf. Everybody knows it'd have to be a red dwarf.
Yeah, but it's still doing. In the realms of Hollywood, it's still doing its best to make it believable. And they do a really good job of giving you this believable alternate future, but now history for us.
You know, one time I took Universe Sandbox, which is this solar system simulation game. And just for fun and giggles, I replaced Jupiter with a star just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Everyone died.
Yeah, I can imagine things.
Everyone died. that's everyone died. That's why they didn't. You know, they're all looking up this beautiful star, going, "Wow, this is so beautiful. Why are the oceans boiling?"
So it's called Universe Sandbox, is it?
Universe Sandbox. It's a great game.
What you're describing is the result of every time I play The Sims.
Pretty much, yeah. Except it's except this is you can literally kill everyone on the planet.
Look,
I wonder what would happen if I shoot a baseball at the speed of light at Earth. Oh, everyone died.
I really should have a look at some of the cast here, because there's a character actor who is the scientist that works on How. I don't know if you can remember that actor's name, but I love that guy. Dr. Chandra, played by.
I actually looked him up a second ago.
Is it Bob? No, it's not. Oh, yeah, I haven't got it in front of me here, but I love that actor. He's been in a couple of really great films over the year, and he's
Yes, he
really
has.
good playing that
You
socially
don't
awkward.
really know his name, but you recognize his face.
Yeah.
Bob Balaban. Bob Balaban.
It is Bob
Still with us,
Balaban.
as a matter of fact. Yes.
Yeah, and if you looked at some of
Bob
his
Balaban.
most known films, you're going to absolutely freak out. Go, oh my God, he was in
Yes.
that. So, no, great actor, great performance. John Lithgow, of course, early in his career, mind you. John
Yes.
Lithgow, I think, had won the Oscar for World According to Garp. He was nominated or he won. That was 82. And then this, you mentioned him playing Terrified. What was the other movie you were mentioning?
The Twilight Zone movie.
Of course.
Terror at
That was
65,000 feet. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yes, of
So
course.
it was a few years
and that was
before.
83 as well. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Which, considering that movie had already killed an actor, I can understand why he would be a little panicked.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
God, why did I say that? Bad.
Yes.
Another character actor that I really liked in this movie.
Hey. And
Another character
really
actor that I really...
is John Landis went in to make some of his biggest films throughout that decade before it even went to court.
Yes. Exactly.
It's actually really insidious once you get into that story of what it is around Hollywood and how it's like, as long as you're making us money, you can keep making films. And
the second you have your first flop, we're throwing you to the justice system.
Yeah, and that's what
another
happened.
character actor in this movie that I really enjoy is Elia Baskin, who plays the kind Russian guy. Max.
Yeah.
He is another one of those people. He's another one of those people who you know his face, but you don't know his name. And he's a very funny actor. He was in the first Austin Powers movie. He's present whenever Austin Powers is getting thawed out. And, hello there, comrade. Finally beat those capitalist pigs, did we? Austin, we won. Oh, yes. Yay, capitalism.
Yes. We got to do those movies one day. I goddamn love the Austin Powers films.
We do. They're so great.
But nevertheless, this film, dude, I'm so glad that you threw this into the ring because I probably wouldn't have gone back and watched it. But I'm very happy that I've gone back and seen this. In fact, I'm going to watch it again because I want to show the wife because I think she'll really enjoy it. Because, I love this science fiction fact stories. Like, I'm a big fan of Interstellar. I love those type of hard sci-fi is as enjoyable as fantasy sci-fi in my mind. So, and I consider this almost hard sci-fi. It's there. It's in that realm anyway. Maybe not hard, but it's there.
I actually consider this an optimistic sci-fi that was very prevalent in the 1980s. We saw it here. We saw it with Cocoon. You can talk about some movies you just never hear anything about anymore. We just saw this where it was science fiction, but it was uplifting science fiction where, the unknown is beautiful and mysterious and, there's nothing in the shadows that wants to eat us. That's what I find best about it. Plus the score to this movie is great. I mean, how can you not like a movie where every single time something takes place in space, you have operatic singers going,
I'm a sucker for that, though. Yeah. I love that.
I hear something.
You raised something very
doing really bad opera. Who's singing opera? Stop it. I'm trying to get drunk.
You raised something really interesting, which would be an interesting study to do. Is like you talked about the 80s optimism of sci-fi, and yet it's less than a decade later. By the time we hit the 90s, that goes 180.
Yeah,
we started to go real dark.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is looking at three-boobed women and trying to save people who can't breathe.
We're going to another planets trying to kill bugs in a fascist society. Like, even Demolition Man, I had some issues with that future. I'm not using those seashells.
But hey, Taco Bell, though.
Taco Bell.
We did get some optimistic sci-fi in the 90s. We did get The Fifth Element, which I thought was a super optimistic movie.
Yeah, that is super. But that's a one-off, I think. That's standard.
Yeah, I do have to agree.
Yeah. But either way, this is the delight. I see here it had a budget of $28 million, which would have been a huge budget in the early 80s, and moderately did okay in North America alone, making $40 million. So it made its money, made a little bit more. It probably did well on VHS, I would assume. I'm sure the science nerds back then, all your college kids were loving this.
Yeah.
It came out in VHS.
there
On
was
cable.
yeah, there was a movement, or there was movement to do 2061 and 3001. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, Tom Hanks was attached to 3001 for a while. They were going to skip 2061 and go and do 3001. That up and died, and then the Sci-Fi Channel, or should I say, Sci-Fi, was going to do TV movies based on them, and
Thank God they
those,
did.
yeah, those completely died as well because
Right.
that would have just not been good.
I
Right
don't
now,
think.
I don't think that there's any active plans to make adaptations of the last two books. And as somebody who's read the last two books, that's okay.
I think it's fine as it is. It doesn't need. We don't need a sequel to this. Like, that would be a terrible idea. It'd be like a really dumb idea, like someone like Josh Gad deciding he's going to make Spaceballs too.
Oh my God, what reality is that? That just sounds
That
terrible.
is
There's no way that
not
would ever happen. No way.
No way,
It's
right?
like
That would not be
it's like you just
reported.
pulled a news story out of your butt. There's no way that's going to happen. Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me that there's a sequel to History of the World Part 1.
Oh yes. Yeah, no, that would be ridiculous to say that.
Yeah,
It'd be ridiculous to say there was a 6-episode History of the World Part 2 on Hulu. That wouldn't happen.
That would be the same stupid universe where somebody made a lame sequel to Hocus Pocus.
Or that they're doing a sequel to Practical Magic. Like, that would be stupid, right? Like,
See, I don't even have a smart aleck remark for that. My whole response is just, my brain just stopped. Like, huh?
The reality of what we've just said.
Is there really a huge demand for a Practical Magic sequel? Is there just this flock of people out in the world going, we want a Practical Magic sequel? Well, we can do a sequel to this, or we can do another Firefly movie. Practical Magic!
No, that's two aging Hollywood stars who are just trying to create roles for themselves at this point.
Well, you know.
And it's a shame because they need to age gracefully.
Good on them. You know what? Work as long as you can, ladies.
I love Sandra Bullock, man. On the plane.
Oh, I do too. I'm not going to watch Practical Magic 2, but Sandra Bullock, I do love you.
I watched on the plane The Lost City. I hadn't seen it, the one with Channing Tatum and Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a Romancing the Stone. Look, it isn't perfect cinema, but I enjoyed it. She's funny as hell. I like watching her.
I think, yeah, they were playing that on the plane whenever I went to Japan, and 3 people walked out.
Out of the plane. This movie's that bad.
Yeah, just right out of the plane. It was crazy. Like, the movie's not that bad. It's that bad.
No, nonetheless, this gets a big tick. Thank you, Jason, for putting it. I wonder what people's memories are of this movie. Because,
I hope that they will tell us in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are going to be moving forward from this movie, and we're going to be talking about a movie that you're not even aware that we're going to be talking about coming up next, because I decided to save this. I don't have the thumbnail, but we are due to be doing the Alien 3, right? That's our next film that we had booked to do. But I've decided to slot in that we need to take a detour to a place called Frogtown. So the next VHS
what?
We are going to Frogtown, because hell
Frogtown.
Exactly.
That sounds like a really boring independent movie.
It does, but it ain't.
You're not going to tell me this is about actual, like, humanoid frogs in their own society, is it?
Kinda, yeah. But it's got Rowdy Piper in it. So
you sold me. You sold me, because he's here. He's here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of bubble gum.
Yes, we're going to go a bit schlocky before we go back to sci-fi again. We're going, well, it isn't. No, it's not science fiction. It's, I don't know, post-apocalyptic genre is the next movie we're going to see. And hell comes to Frogtown.
If humanoid frogs are not science fiction, I don't know what is.
I don't know. I just consider this the Battletoads movie. So
I'll go for it. I'll go for it.
And then, of course, we'll be doing Alien 3. But after that, guys, the reason we've decided to slot in a couple of movies ourselves is because we want more suggestions. I mean, we've got one really great contributor. He knows who he is, and we're dealing with some of his movies coming up. But we need more from you Patreon members.
Yes, and of course, if you're a Patreon and you suggest a movie, we will more than likely do that movie, unless it's practical magic. So please visit the video description below and find out how you can join our Patreon for as little as $5 a month or more.
They're going to suggest
Hint,
practical
hint,
magic now.
wink, wink, blinkety, blink, blink, blink. If you
Oh,
suggest
boy.
practical magic, I promise I will make Jace watch it.
Oh, God, no.
I don't even know what practical magic is.
You
Is
never
it
said your